The situation of confidence is an up and down. It's a bubble. It's an up and down bubble. Sometimes it bursts, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. But the truth of the matter is it's a matter of how you choose to see it in the moments. And if you are more cognitively aware of how your brain processes, I promise you can get better control of it. And you can understand how to control it in a way that allows you to actually utilize it. This is what's called the self-mastery sequence. And this is a sequence of how our brain, like, honestly processes all throughout the day. What I want to do is teach you how, if you see the flow of this, you can actually control it in a way that allows you to have a better base and gauge on moments that are difficult and how you can do the hard things when you need to then spin things up the right way. So at the very top of this is going to be what I call identity anchors. So what this is, I'm a guy that operates in identity. I want to get to the point where the things that are difficult, I do like their second nature. I call it rhythm. Like, it's more of like, think about the daily operational rhythm. And I don't mean your routines. I mean the rhythm of how you flow. Now, we have a certain level of confidence, but there are certain moments that press and test this confidence. So it becomes difficult for us to press to the next tier, right? So at the very top, what ends up happening is you currently have an identity. If I asked you, hey, who are you? You tell me something. And you go to a part of your brain that says, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a parent, I'm a brother, sister, cousin, I'm a manager, I'm a CEO, whatever it is. There's a part of you that says, this is who I am, right? It's built around confidence, usually from your past success. Now, there's also things you don't have confidence in. Part of those anchors may be like, hey, I'm not the greatest reader. I'm not the greatest writer. I'm not the greatest X, Y, or Z. And you've also created an identity around that. You've actually spoken things into existence in ways that probably shouldn't be, because the reality is when you speak something into existence, you will live in a way to make that right? So your identity is what you have in place. Now, this leads to the next piece, which goes to the right. And this is what we call our beliefs. Now, based on your identity, you have certain beliefs that are in line with this, and you operate from them daily without even realizing it. These beliefs were put in place a long time ago. There's a lot of different studies on this, but Eric Erickson has a study in a kind of a structure of the psychosocial aspects. And what he looks at is there's an area between like the age of like 18 to 21 where we have this issue between our role and our identity. It's actually called identity versus role confusion. And what ends up happening is you know who you are, but now your role in society becomes a little bit, kind of distant because you're entering it now as an adult, right? I'm a kid, hang my parents, and all of a sudden I know who I am. Then I'm thrust into this world where like I now have to operate as an autonomous human by myself, and I don't know who I am or where I fit and how this works. And what's crazy is we've already entered that world with certain beliefs based on who we are. Right. So this belief system, if I don't have a belief that I'm capable, that I'm strong, if I kick my kids out of the house at 18 and I haven't helped them have an identity of strong, confident, powerful, whatever it is, they'll go into that world with an identity that's weak, and they'll be confused as they look at the world. And the problem is, if nobody goes at any point in time and adjusts this or grows, growth day, right? I end up living this cycle the rest of my life. So you got to take a look at what are the beliefs that I have, the belief systems I have in place. And you have to actually take a look at what are they? What do you believe is possible for yourself or impossible for yourself? Now, beliefs go to another piece, which is very interesting. And we have these all the time. These are called our thoughts. And these bad boys run. They're always running. Mine are running right now because I can't see your faces. My thought is like, do they like this? Is this any good? I don't know. I'm talking really loud to my microphone. I hope they like it, right? There's a thought going all the time, right? And you guys have also the same kind of thoughts. There's conscious and subconscious thoughts, and these root from the beliefs. If we have a belief system that's out of whack and not controlled, we'll have thoughts that put us into depression, that put us in anxiety, they just take off and we can't control them. And you, just because it's rooted in some belief system that I believe is who I am and I can't adjust it, right? So beliefs go to thoughts. Now, thoughts, they create something unique that I wish we could control, but we can't always control it. And this is the area of emotions. Now, emotions are very interesting because they happen. Like, we have them. My wife has them, and I can't control them. If anybody's married, it's hard to control the emotion of other human that's in your house. And I just have to control my emotions when she has her emotions in place doing her thing. And you get that if you're in a relationship or ever have been, and you're human, you probably have, but you know what I mean, right? And what happens is unique in the area of when I have these thoughts, they feed and fuel my emotions. For example, if I'm in a situation where somebody cuts me off in a car, right, and I'm just driving, my thought is they don't like me. What bad people, my emotions get enraged and I freak out. These people, how can they cut me off, right? But what if I have a thought in my head that says they might be in a rush to get to somebody who needs help? different kind of emotion that would come from that thought, right? It's a complete different thing. And so what happens is if we have control of our thoughts a little bit more, we can actually have control of our emotions. And what happens from the emotions, these emotions lead to our actions. And the actions are interesting. So what happens here is I have found that whenever we have these moments in our life, typically our emotions fuel the actions, and actions are driven by the emotional aspect of how we feel in the moment. If I feel amazing, I'll take a bold, powerful, amazing action. If I don't, if I believe I'm not smart and I tell myself I'm not smart, my emotions are like, oh, a little detrimental, like I feel bad. And then I take kind of a halfway action. This happens for us in life consistently. The emotions fuel the actions, and we all live in actions. Like no matter what it is, you have taken the action to be here right now, to hang out with me and Brendon and the rest of the crew. This is an action for improvement, right? You had an identity that said, look, I know who I am, but I want to be better. I believe I can be better. My thoughts are like, I'm going to go and take an advantage of this opportunity to actually be part of Growth Day. My emotions are like, yeah, I can't wait to get there. The action I took after that was like, let's do it. And I'm here, right? Your outcomes are the results of the actions you took, based on the emotions, from the thoughts, from the beliefs, from the identity, right? And the outcomes could be good, could be bad, no matter what they are the result of the action you took. So if you take a great, amazing, bold action, great, amazing outcome, right? If you take a crappy, halfway action, usually crappy, halfway outcome. So if you're like, I tried to do it, Anthony, I really tried really hard to eat healthy. Well, did you really, right? Because at the end of the day, if you took the action properly, bold, strong, with discipline dialed in, the outcome is you're in better shape. If you kind of little bit do it, I cheat and I binge eat at 12 o'clock at night, well, the outcome's not going to be what you want it to be. If you kind of read the book, but you don't, really take the action of reading deeply and really understanding it, the outcome is, I don't know the information, right? Maybe you kind of decide to launch your podcast, a little bit of action, or you really do launch that, right? There's a lot of different areas where people don't realize an action has levels. You can boldly go and do that thing at beyond the space of what feels comfortable and have an amazing outcome, or have a halfway outcome. Now, the outcomes lead to something special and unique, which really is unique. It's going to be your environment. This is going to be internal and external. Now, the reason we have both of these because they give us feedback that lead over to our identity. And here's why. Whenever I look at the aspect of like my internal environment, if I have an amazing, powerful action I take, and then the outcome is amazing and powerful, my internal environment is like, oh, man, I feel great. Look at me. I'm cool. I'm doing great, right? If I take an action that's halfway and the outcome's halfway, well, then my internal environment's like, oh, man, that feels bad. Right. And on top of that, I create an external environment, right? If I'm joyous and happy and in a great mood, my external environment is I got great friends, part of a great community like GrowthDay. I get to go do cool, amazing things, right? And at the same capacity, maybe I make more money. Maybe I have more time, and maybe I have a better house and I take more trips, right? My external environment is better because of the action I took that had a better outcome, that it gives me a different environment of how I feel inside and what I see outside. And what you have environmentally, it creates your anchors.
The topic of confidence. It is a good one for all of us because confidence is a required ingredient for everything that we are hoping for in the pursuit of the life we're trying to create inside of this year or any year. And also, change challenges confidence. It's going to come with these questions of what might happen in these new unknowns. It's going to trigger our anxiety, our worry of what if, our worry of how long. It requires better question asking around what can happen, right? What kind of preparation is required to be ready, fortifying our confidence with the kind of planning that will have us preempt the thing that might get in our way long before it does. So I want to try and walk you through a little framework around what might happen, what can happen, and what will happen. I want you to take the time and write a letter to your fear. What are the things that you fear in this journey of growth that you've chosen? What are you worried about in relationship, in finance, around your health? What are the things that are triggered insecurity-wise, imposter syndrome, whatever it might be? I made a list of my fears, and then I asked these two questions. Which of these fears are actually real? And which of these fears can a plan be created for to address the warranted fear? The interesting thing in going line by line through my 46 things is that many of the things I thought were, of course, yes, totally ridiculous. 80% of them gone. But the other 20%, they were warranted fears, right? Those fears were real. And I believe that the role that those fears were playing was a prompt to ask questions on how I could best prepare to do it scared, but ready. The ability to formulate the kind of habits and routines, the circle of support, the resources I'd need to ready myself to, yes, confront my fear. The fear was not going to go away, but to do it in a way that changed completely the way I felt courageous and up to the challenge. Let's dive into what might happen. Epictetus said, man is not worried about real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about the real problem, right? It's an idea that was reinforced by Seneca. We suffer more from imagination than reality. I want you to grab a blank piece of paper. I want you to draw 3 circles on the blank piece of paper. This represents the things that we worry about, the things that can happen, and the things that do. I have filled it out for you so that you can fill it out yourself. The whole pie is the way that our brain processes every single thing that could possibly happen on this journey of becoming. The smaller circle is the list of things that actually can happen, because our mind is so crazy, it will have us worrying about things that could never happen. But that smallest dot, those are the things that actually do happen. And when you can see it against the backdrop of how much we afford, the weight of worrying about everything with how much actually happens, it just affords you a confidence to dismiss a little bit of the rhetoric that voice in your head is trying to sell you about why you should be worried in the first place. Now, that in and of itself, that's not going to make your anxiety go away like magic. There is a next step. And I don't know what role anxiety plays for you, but I will tell you, for me, anxiety is providing me information. It's intel, right? It's a trail of breadcrumbs in my life to a place where I do not yet have clarity, where I don't yet have a solidified plan. And in the ambiguity that exists in not yet having a plan, I am afforded an opportunity, because of the message relayed by anxiety, to dive into and consider how I might become just a little bit more prepared for this piece in my life. It has fundamentally changed the way I think about anxiety. Thank you, anxiety. I hate that I've become grateful for you, anxiety, but in fact, when it presents itself, it's just trying to help me create clarity in a part of my life where there is ambiguity. All right, I want you to take a new piece of paper. I want you to write down, like I have written down here, what might happen and what can happen. The homework for you is to take the letter that you've written to your fear. And on the left side, right, what might happen, write any of the things that might happen and put them on that left-hand side of the page. On the right-hand side, the things that can happen, write those down and put them on the right-hand side of the page. Once you have every fear that you attribute to what might happen, I want you to ask yourself the same question that I did. Is this fear real? Is it actually something that can happen? Is it actually something that is highly likely to happen? And if the answer is no, can you have a conversation with that fear and release it? Can you connect to confidence in a way that might allow you to cross it off the list? If you need to, could you write that fear on a piece of paper, crumple it up in a ball, and symbolically, as you let it go into a trash can, release it from the weight that you would have to carry in keeping it a part of you in the journey from where you are to where we're going, right? The next step, right, for any of the fears that still exist after you've tried to release the ones that are not real, is how do you take the limiting belief that you currently have about your ability to handle this fear, this thing that might happen, and turn your limiting belief into an empowering belief around why you are completely qualified to handle it. So I'll give you an example from my list. On my what might happen list, I couldn't let go of my anxiety around what if I put myself out there and fail? Right? I'd had a very successful job inside the Walt Disney Company for 17 years, the last 7, where I'm the president of distribution, surrounded by the greatest intellectual property, the best teams. I was always an accomplice to success, not solely responsible for it. In the work that I did in the Hollis company, working with my partner and wife, Rachel, building something that was built around, again, great intellectual property, it was not all on me. And here I am leaving a harbor that was previously safe for a harbor where I know I will grow, and it all falls on me. What if I put myself out there and I fail? So I ran through an exercise that I call positive, negative, reframed. Okay? When you take the things that might happen and you're able to create 3 columns of the positive outcomes, the negative outcomes, and the reframed outcomes of what might happen if these things were to pass, then you get a chance to actually see all the scenarios that could unfold, right? For me, I might be seen as underqualified to do this work. I might embarrass myself publicly. I might be triggered to reach for negative coping mechanisms when I feel badly about it, right? Those were my limiting beliefs. And in establishing those limiting beliefs up front, as I went through the positive, negative, and reframed outcomes, I made a list of every single thing that could happen if I put myself out there and failed, right? All the good things that could happen, hey, I'd learn. All the negative things that would happen, I might be embarrassed. And anytime I wrote something that was negative, I was then challenging myself to ask, but is there good that could come from this negative scenario that I'm believing in? Is there a way for me to see that negative as happening for me instead of to me? And once I went through the positive, negative, and reframed outcomes, I was able to go back to my limiting beliefs. And I was able to challenge each of them in a way that made them empowering, in a way that fortified me with the confidence to believe that I am perfectly qualified. And so my limiting beliefs became, I'm already qualified to do this work because of the experiences that I've had and the willingness to be vulnerable and share this journey with others. I changed it to, the only way that I'll acquire skills necessary for the audacity of my life is if I can envision the embracing of failure as the vehicle that's going to help me grow. I reminded myself that I've already made it through 100% of my failures. And I've done so in a way that has every single time left me stronger, having learned more and growing because of them. Okay, so that's the work for you. I want you to take your fears, create this exhaustive list of every single thing that can happen, positive, negative, and then reframe anything that's negative. And do some work on the limiting beliefs that you have going into the exercise and how knowing now that you can turn any of the negative scenarios into something positive, that it might afford you this permission to have an empowering belief on why you are perfectly qualified for this life you are hoping to live.
In the real world, confidence is very often unavailable at the moments where you have to make the biggest decisions, and there is no way to actually get it. What we started thinking about here is the fact that it's not about confidence in real life, nor do you want it to be about confidence. It's about the opportunity to be changed by a moment or an experience. Because the truth is, in the real world, the only way to be 100% confident about anything is if you've already done it, or if someone else has already done it. And at that point, confidence doesn't really matter, because when you're 100% confident that it will work and you will succeed, you have simultaneously reduced the stakes to a point where you won't care even if you succeed. It just doesn't matter anymore. So I'm going to propose to you that it's actually not about confidence. That's really not what we're going for here, right? I'm going to propose an alternative frame to you. And that's that it's the moments you're not confident, but find a way to do it anyway, that hold the greatest opportunity for growth. So rather than us trying to figure out how can I get confident, how can I do the things that will make me feel 100% confident, how can I gather the facts or the skills or the information, the things that matter the most, the places where the stakes are the highest and the opportunity for growth and success and amazement and awe and connection and serendipity and impact and purpose and meaning, those experiences, those interactions, those moments, those endeavors and pursuits, guess what? You will never have anywhere close to 100% confidence in your own ability to pull it off, or in the world rallying to support it or you. But you got to find a way to act anyway, because those are the windows. Those are the moments. Those are the seasons of our life when we don't know, but somehow we still act. And when we actually can find a way through, when we keep making decisions and taking actions and keep stepping forward and forward and forward, even when our head is spinning and the world is uncertain and we have very little confidence, we just don't know if it's going to work or not. When we find the ability to do that, and then we progress through it and we take baby steps towards this vision that we have, that is the most magical place to be. It's not even the achievement of the end state that really fuels us up and lights us up. It's the process. It's the process of growing. It's the process of putting yourself in a place where you have the opportunity to be changed by the experience. And if you are 100% confident that you can do it and that the universe will support it and there's no way to fail, it doesn't matter to you anymore. What you have effectively done is made yourself comfortable, but eliminated the opportunity to experience growth. I'm going to suggest something different here. Instead of pursuing confidence, what I'm going to suggest is that we take a different approach, that we cultivate unconfident action meta skills, that we actually intentionally put ourselves in a place on a regular basis where we go out into the world and we don't know how it's going to end, where there's no easy way to have confidence that this is going to work or we will be able to pull it off and still be okay there, because that is the fertile ground of life. So let's talk about some of these skills, okay? I call these the ABCs. The first one is awareness and ease. What I'm talking about here is the ability to see clearly and find peace in the space of groundlessness. So that's really kind of two things, but the practices are related. We want to know that we're looking out into the horizon and we can see as clearly and truthfully as possible, and also looking internally and understanding what is my internal state? How clear can I get about that? I want to become aware of the internal and external states, because that is one of the things that will allow me to make effective decisions rather than spinning all sorts of anxiety-based or doom-based projections, right? We want to become aware, and we want to cultivate the practices that will let us feel a sense of ease. The second one is bravery. And what I'm talking about when I talk about bravery is a willingness to act even when you don't know if it will work. And the third thing, right, this is the C here, is conviction. And when I'm talking about conviction, I'm talking about a deep knowing around why it matters and what the stakes are. So those are what I call the ABCs of cultivating action in the face of unconfidence. Let's start with conviction. So when I talk about conviction here, what I'm really talking about is to ask the why question 5 to 10 times, and then we're going to step away from it, ask it again, and journal. Now, why is this so important in the context of us doing things, knowing that no matter how much we try, there is no one moment where if the stakes are high and we haven't already done it before, that we will ever be 100% confident. So it can be these tiny little moments, or it could be launching something huge into the world or starting a new career. When we do that, we're taking a risk and we're going to stumble along the way. And the bigger it is, the more complex it is, the longer the time frame, the more likely it is that we're going to keep meeting barrier after barrier after barrier. When that happens, one of the things that allows us to continue to take steps and make decisions is understanding why we said yes to it in the first place. But very often, when we ask ourselves, well, why does this matter to me? We come up with a superficial answer at first. And then if we keep drilling down though, but why does that answer matter to me? And then why does that answer matter to me? And then why does that answer matter to me? So if I'm going to move from one place to an entirely different state or country, I could say, well, I'm moving from New York to Colorado, for example. And I would say, well, there's a lot of risk involved in that. I'm not confident in myself that I'll be able to handle the move and work effectively and be okay. And I don't, but I still have to take some action. And I would say to myself, well, why would it matter to me to be there? Well, because, I love the outdoors and, there's snowboarding nearby and, okay. But why does that matter to me? Well, because there's something about the outdoors. And when I'm snowboarding on a mountain that changes the way that I feel. Okay. And why does that matter to me? Well, because as you get deeper into life, very often, you become more attuned to the passage of time. And I am attuned to that. And I want to know that in whatever time I have on this planet, I'm doing things that allow me to feel connected and alive. And then you keep going like that 2 more times until you get to a place where you get the most authentic answer. And here's what you do then. Instead of writing it down saying, I'm done, you walk away, because the real juice happens after you do that. Because you take a pause, but your brain does not. Your subconscious brain keeps running the script, running the question over and over and over. You don't even realize it. And then 3 days later, you're walking down the street and your brain says, this is the real reason why. And when you get that, you write it down, you write about it, you reflect on it, you journal it, and you put it in print, not by typing it into a computer, but by literally writing it with your hands. It's because it changes the brain. It wires it differently when you memorialize things that way. So you write it down. And this is so important because when you start to stumble, when you hit roadblocks, when things happen that keep you questioning, what happens is when you can revisit the deepest why, it gives you the sense of conviction. It says, oh, this is why this mattered to me. This is what the stakes are. And I care deeply about these stakes. So even though I don't know if I'm going to succeed, I'm not really confident in my ability to pull this off. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to keep taking action because it really, really matters to me.
Confidence is this journey. It's this constant learning and changing and ebbing and flowing, and there's so much about it. And so I don't believe that there is a one size fits all statement about confidence that is going to be true for all of us. The thing that I think that can be true for all of us is that confidence shows up for each of us when we can finally say, I am me. I know exactly who I am. And frankly, I like it. And that thought alone is so freeing because it's not marked by anyone else's interpretation of confidence. It's not marked by anyone else's belief of what we should be or how we should act or how we should perform or what we should do. I was researching about confidence, and there is this amazing woman named Evelyn Marinoff, and she researches and writes about the psychology behind confidence. And I think it's super interesting. So get this, men's self-esteem tends to move in this upward linear projection. So just kind of picture this. Men are moving upward and it's very linear, while women have more variable trajectories and experience frequent ups and downs in their self-worth levels. How many of you can relate to this, whether you're a man or a woman? I thought this was so interesting. And so that makes men more stable in their own self-opinions, while for women, it's truly this blend of nature and nurture that shapes our sense of worth. And the good thing is, I honestly see this fact as a win because we all want to make more improvement. We want to mold our own self-opinions. And the thing that is exciting about confidence is that we can improve it. Right? It's this soft skill that often gets downplayed when you think about when you are applying for a job or when you're telling people what you're good at. We always lean on the hard skills that we have, whether, it's education or we're proficient in something. And confidence is this soft skill that often flies under the radar, but I believe that confidence can change every facet of our life. And it's good because we can improve it. There are studies that have shown that. And so there are so many different factors that can really influence our confidence level, and our unique environments and our histories, specifically our upbringing, where we grew up, our parental care, our quality of education, have this large impact on shaping our levels of confidence. So one other study found that later in life, nature's effect was 40%, and 60% was about nurture. And I think about this a lot as a mother, because I think about how I'm bringing up my daughter and how I want to instill confidence in her, and how what I do as a mother, how I instill that confidence, is going to attribute for about 40% of what she believes to be true about herself and for herself. But it also gives a lot of hope, because that leaves room for 60% of our confidence levels to be nurtured. I believe that confidence shows up in 3 different ways in our lives. Confidence shows up in who we are. So my grandmother, I talked to her yesterday on the phone, and she is struggling with memory loss, but she still has these very vivid memories from my childhood. And every time I talk to my grandma, she always tells this same story. And I was 5 years old. I was laying in bed with her, and she looked at me, and I had my hands like this on my face. And my grandma said, "Jenna, what makes you so beautiful?" And I looked at her, I didn't even pause. And I said, "Well, that's just how God made me." And my grandma tells me this story every single time I talk to her. And I hear this story over and over again. And it reminds me of that childlike confidence that I had at this young age, because I knew who I was. And I also knew who created me. And no matter what you believe, I think that there's something so powerful in feeling connected that we were made in some sort of vision. So first, I believe that confidence shows up in who we are. It's that innate, ingrained confidence that we just carry naturally. And those are likely the things that we have had confidence in since we were a child. So the first one is confidence in who we are, but the second one is confidence in what we know. So when I became a mother 2 years ago, I remember leaving the hospital and thinking to myself, I can't believe they're just letting me walk out the doors with this child. Has anyone felt like that? Like, you're like, where is the college degree that tells me I'm equipped to care for another human being? And it's funny because now 2 years into the game, I find myself feeling like an expert in the experience I've lived and being able to contribute to other people who are experiencing things that I once experienced and had questions on. And so number 2 is confidence in what we know. And confidence is formed in so many different ways in our life. We are constantly students of life, and there is no other community I'd rather be a part of, because you guys see how important it is to be a student, to continue growing through life, and I'm right there with you. And so sometimes the lessons are the things that we learn in formal classrooms with the fluorescent lights, but sometimes, and most of the time, the lessons are the things that life has taught us. When we soak in what we consume, we start to grow a level of confidence in what we know. And I want for you to really think about this one, because a lot of times we lean on more of the formal education, but I want to think about the things that life has taught you, the lessons that life has shown you, the things that you found yourself researching in forums at 3 a.m. because you need answers, because you likely know a lot more than you give yourself credit for. And in that knowing, you get to show up with more confidence. Now, number 3 is confidence in how we can impact. This leans on a statement that I like to say, which is who I am and what I do. Have you ever noticed that a lot of times when people take the stage, or they're hosting a community, or you land on a website even, a lot of times people will say, this is who I am, this is how I serve, or who I serve, and this is how I serve them. And I think that there's so much confidence in almost having that own mission statement for your life. And so when I look at the people who are out there who are really set on making the biggest impact, it's those who can confidently tell you, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I serve the world. The deeper that we understand and feel confidence in our gifts, the greater our impact is. And I love that. So just to reiterate, the 3 things that I think can influence our confidence and that ways that confidence shows up in our lives are confidence in who we are, confidence in what we know, and confidence in how we can impact.
5 ways that you can build confidence. The first thing, affirming activities. I love Jay Shetty because he said this quote. He said, every year he's always learning, loving, and launching something. You always need to be learning, loving, and launching. When you are learning something, it's a humbling place to be. You're not going to be good at it. You're going to be a beginner, and it's not going to be confidence boosting. But when you are loving and launching something, you're in alignment, you're walking in purpose. So at every point in your life, you should be learning, loving, and launching. So what are those affirming activities that you're doing to remind you of how far you've come? Okay. So the first one, affirming activities. The second thing, affirming friends. Affirming friends. Guys, insecurity and confidence don't speak the same language. Get new friends. I had friends that used to project their insecurities on me. They would like shame me for having habits, but every day you should have an alarm, or you should set an alarm that has 3 words that remind you of yourself. Or for me, I also like to do things that are like affirmations. So I'm like, I like to tell myself daily, like, this is all a part of God's plan. This is God, you're building God's kingdom. That's something I tell myself daily. So when I see that, little notification come on my phone, it gets me re-excited. And a friend tried to shame me for having that like habit. And I was like, man, what is it like to be so insecure with yourself that you shame someone for like wanting to like walk in alignment? I was like, I don't need you in my life. Yeah, have affirming friends, people who are also building legacies, people who also understand that life is temporary and what you build is the only thing that lasts forever. Like, how many of you guys have picked up a book that's 200 years old? How insane is that? 200 years ago, someone wrote a book not knowing that 200 years later, Glow would come walking through and finds it in a used bookstore. How cool is that? You do not know how far your story is going to reach, okay? So number 1, affirming activities. Number 2, affirming friends. Number 3, affirming documentation. I record time lapses. I watch the sunrise every single day. There are so many things that I do every single day that remind me of like, I'm building something. And I like to look back on those time lapses like, I remember when I was launching that. Affirming documentation. When you're recording yourself on video because you want to share it on Instagram, or maybe you don't share it, but just having it so that you can look back on it to remind yourself of like, I remember that season of my life when I was getting ready to launch my podcast and I recorded a video of it. Anytime I'm feeling really vulnerable or in a season of like change or transition, I like to have these like video diaries where I'm like, all right, the day is, March 7th. Quarantine day 385. And here's how I feel. And here's what I'm doing. But I love to document those small everyday moments because you're going to look back and be like, wow, I was so confused in that season, but I showed up anyway. There's a lot of people who you can scroll through my Instagram and you won't know the times where I was battling depression and I was just so confused and so unsure. I talk about it later on, but in those moments, I show up anyway. Because I'm like, someone needs me. I'm like, Glow, I don't feel it today, but someone else needs it. And like, again, daily, I recognize my privileges. Daily, I recognize my blessings. And I'm like, there's someone else who's probably going to be in bed when they're watching my video. And I'm talking to them about purpose. They're going to need this. So I'm going to record the video. And then I don't care that I don't sound, like a woman. I need to really stop joking about that. Maybe my next therapist appointment, I need to unpack that. Okay, number 4, affirming consumption. Now, this is on the extreme side, but I created a second Instagram account to follow friends because on my main page, I only want to see personal development, business strategy, entrepreneurship, positivity. And I notice like I love my friends, but if they're posting junk, I'm missing the stuff that I actually need to see. So I had to create, if you notice, Brendon only follows like 100 people. He knows what he's doing. He's got to keep the noise out. Social media is a very loud place. And if the stuff that you actually want to see is drowned underneath everyone else's like pictures of food, I don't know, baby announcements, congratulations. You know, I'm happy for you, but I'll congratulate you from my other page, because if I have 15 minutes to scroll on Instagram every day, I need to get the best of the best. I want to make sure I'm getting affirming consumption. And the last thing, affirming rest. How can you be confident when you're always in a hurry, always overwhelmed, always triggered, always stressed? Okay. 7 hours is like my minimum. 8 is my standard, but I need 7. And there's different like sleep devices. You can have like a Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch that can track your sleep hours and your REM cycle, your deep sleep, your light sleep. And again, to any new mothers, you guys are in a different ballpark, and I'm sorry. And I hope your baby starts sleeping soon. I know like new parenthood is a different story, but when you can get to that place of like, maybe it's sacrificing an hour of Netflix to go to bed an hour earlier. I set my phone every day, and it's automatic now because I've trained my phone to do this. And 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., I am unreachable. No one can access me from 8, like literally my phone goes on do not disturb, meaning that calls get blocked. If someone tries to call me after 8 p.m. or before 8 a.m., it won't even go through. It'll just say this user is not accepting calls right now. They got a text or send an email. Actually, text messages can't even get through until I've turned off do not disturb. And what's great about that is it allows me 12 uninterrupted hours to focus on me, to like start winding down for the day, to start preparing for the day, like having my morning routine and like saying affirmations to myself, journaling, working through like, okay, what is my plan for the day? High performance planner, wink, wink, you know, giving myself time to like fill out all of those prompts and schedule my day accordingly. Literally, the world could be on fire. I won't know until 8 a.m. Sorry, I won't know until I turn my phone on and I tune in. And that's a boundary I set for myself to help me affirm my rest. So again, affirming activities, affirming friends, affirming documentation, affirming consumption, and affirming rest.
You know, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about your confidence. And I am really excited to break down a framework for you. And I hope in doing this, help you realize where some of those dark days come from, where you lose faith in yourself. Where those dark days come from when you know you have a lot to do, but you just don't feel like you can figure it out. Where that, you know, when you get to go out in the world again, or when you're on a Zoom and you got to show yourself to the world, and you feel awkward or weird or insecure, that you tap back into that authentic strength, that truth of who you are. And that as you go through your life, you feel confident that no matter what life is going to throw at you, you're going to learn, you're going to figure it out, you're going to develop your capabilities. And many of you are going through really hard times right now. Sometimes it's just hard to even be positive. You can be so consumed and so overwhelmed by the negativity of other things out there. You just go, oh my gosh, this is just hard to feel good, let alone confident. I'm going to break down a framework that I hope some of you are familiar with, but today we're going to talk about it with a different lens of how to overcome insecurities and what specific daily and monthly habits you might set up for yourself to feel more strong. So this is a piece of paper. It's a framework for confidence that I have on a board in my office. See, we need reminders. We are visual humans. We need to look at something to remind ourselves of something. And so you see, I have this, I'll share this with you in a minute, but I want to get the practice in your mind. The practice in your mind is you should have instructions to yourself on a wall somewhere. So you're like, if you walked into my office and say, Brendon, why do you have a framework for confidence on your wall over there? And I go, well, because sometimes I don't feel confident. And what do we do when we don't feel something? Well, when we don't feel something that we want to feel, we tend to feel not good because we're like, I don't feel this, so I feel bad about myself. Or we tend to distract ourselves. I don't like this feeling, so I don't know what to do, so let me just scroll through the internet. So to me, what I've done is I've got a board over here, and there's my framework for happiness. Do you have a framework for happiness on your wall yet? So that when you don't feel happy, you go, I don't feel happy. What's going on with me? And you can just go look at it and go, I've got my checklist for happiness right there. I forgot point number 3. No wonder I'm not happy. What I'm trying to suggest to you is maybe you give yourself a checklist, a framework, a set of instructions for the feelings that you really want to experience in life. And when you're not feeling it, instead of retreating into the comforts of distraction, you go back to your instructions. You know what makes you feel good. And it's time to write that down and look at it more consistently. Here we go. This is my confidence checklist. This is my framework for confidence. I'm going to break down each of these areas. And even if you've seen this maybe before with me, what I'd love to do is break down where these grow into trouble, where these are developed and strengthened, where these can be applied in your life financially, in your life, in your marriage or your relationship with your partner, with the kids. So I'm going to break down each of those things, each of those areas. I'll use a card here for you. We're going to start with that very first card here. Clarity. Human beings are a goal-directed species. If we don't have clarity on what we want, if we don't have clarity on who we are, if we don't have clarity on what our intentions are in social relationships, it's unnerving to us. Well, if you ever felt lost in life, you know that feeling. It's coming from a lack, often of clarity. We'll talk about this. You just don't know who you are, what you're about, what you want anymore. And it's unsettling when you lack clarity. It's really unsettling. You're like, I don't know what I'm about anymore. And this is where midlife crises come in. Clarity is something it's like knowledge or a goal or an aim, but it's loosely held. What I mean by that is like, okay, that's important to me, but I can be flexible and adaptive as well. It's not this idea that you have total 100% complete certainty and you're total certain all the time. It's like that is a adolescent dream. No, there is no absolute certainty in anything in life, right? And so we have to go, okay, I can have clear direction, or I can be strongly committed to this thing, but lots of people who are absolutely certain about something shifts months later. So here's my question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, in the last 60 days, how clear have you been about what you wanted in life? Did you start the day with some clarity about how you wanted to live that day, show up that day, treat other people that day, serve that day? So let's think about where sometimes you feel insecure. You're going to go to that party or that networking function. You feel insecure about yourself. Why? Because in your mind, the insecurity in that moment, in that situation of the networking situation or the party is coming from, I don't know who I am in here. I don't know these people and who I'm supposed to be with them. I don't know where to go or where to stand or who to talk to. And so it's unnerving. The insecurity is, I don't know what to do in this situation. Now that type of confidence or lack thereof is something that psychologists call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is about, I don't know what to do in this situation. That's where the insecurity comes from. Positive self-efficacy means I believe that I know what to do in this situation. I can handle this. Even if I don't know how yet, I believe I can handle this. I have the competence to take this on, as an example. That's positive. But a lot of things in life you don't know how to deal with. You don't have self-efficacy because you don't know how to handle it yet. This is a new party. You don't know anybody in it. It's a new networking event. You've never met any of these people. How do you get more confidence in that? Well, one simple thing you can do is start with clarity. Like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to people. What's something I'd love to share about myself with every new person I meet? Oh, okay, lock that in. Okay, got it. What's one question I could ask every new person I meet? Okay, let me lock that in. Okay, just those 2 things have been found to dramatically increase people's sense of confidence in social situations. I know what I'm going to share about myself. I have clarity on it. I know what I'm going to ask them. I have clarity on it. Just those 2 simple things. The problem with clarity is it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people, their clarity is, I'm awful. I'm worthless. I'm no good. And they've stacked up all these experiences to strengthen that belief. And their clarity is, well, I'm a jerk. I don't deserve success. I won't have success. They've got clarity, but they got the wrong kind of clarity. See, confidence requires positive clarity, not negative self-defeating clarity. So clarity is a double-edged sword. If you believe the wrong thing about yourself, that's going to hurt you too. So what's the opposite of that? Well, I'm going to start viewing myself positively. How can we do that? Well, you know what? Maybe each day for the next 10 days, I'm going to write down a strength that I have. Write down 10 positive things about yourself every day for the next 10 days. Watch what happens for you. You start shifting your perception of yourself. Here, my little framework, we're going to go from clarity now to congruence. Congruence is living in alignment with what you know is the best of you. Living in alignment with the best of who you are. Living in alignment with your values. When you are not congruent, your brain logs that. And what it says in that log entry, not living your word, not living your truth, not doing what you said you would do. And too many of those negative withdrawals sucks away your confidence. But here's what you need. To be congruent, what do you need? Clarity. You say, okay, these are my values. These are my beliefs. This is what I think is important as a human being, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a leader. Congruence measures whether or not you're doing what you said you're going to do. And that's important. So here's the simplest fix. If you've been pulling too many withdrawals out of that bank account, it's time to put some back in. And so today might be the day you go, where have I been incongruent? Where do I say something and I don't do it? Where are you out of congruence? And can you do the simple acts? Sometimes when you're out of congruence, first you just apologize to yourself. You say, you know what? Gosh, Brendon, I haven't been honest with myself. Let's make a change. I think the fastest path back into congruence is an apology. An apology to yourself, an apology to other persons. It takes a lot of guts to say you are wrong. It takes a lot of guts to acknowledge you could do better. This one's fundamental. You get to decide today what to be congruent with. You get to decide who you are, and you get to decide to show up and live into that. Third big idea, competence. Right? Competence, it's a collection of knowledge, skill, talents, and abilities. The good news is you can increase this. So here's what I want you to do. Every day, I want you to have clarity on what skills you are working on in your life. That's how we're going to get competence. Competence for too many people comes 2 years too late. Why? Because they wait too long to start developing a skill. Every day, I'm very clear about what I'm trying to improve. Every day I'm learning something, but I'm learning not just casually or passively. I'm trying to get better at this thing. I want you all to have an ambition to have 1 or 2 or 3 skill sets that you're literally world-class in, that you're world-class in. Not because you need the ego that I am world-class. No. Because you need the challenge. You know why a lot of people lack confidence? They never engage challenge. You want more confidence? Engage in challenge more often. The more challenge you engage in and you incrementally improve in it, the more your brain goes, yep, there I did it again. And what happens when you don't have confidence, you don't engage in challenge. When you don't engage in challenge, you don't get more competence. So you don't get that competence-confidence loop we were talking about, the flywheel. You all follow? So for those of you, if you're like, but I just lack confidence, like challenge yourself more. But you're like, but I'm lacking confidence. I'm like, exactly. See, it doesn't, you're going, well, I'll get confidence, then I'll do the challenging things. I'm like, the other way around. You want more confidence, do challenging things more often. When you do challenging things more often, you learn. When you learn, confidence. Connection. When you don't have a connection with yourself or others, confidence goes down. So you want to feel more confident in life? Reconnect with yourself and others. With yourself, that's your morning routine. Lock in that morning routine. The more you feel connected to self, the more confident you are. But you need the time to connect to yourself, away from the email, the social media, the obligations for the kids, the family, the husbands, the spouses, the team, everything else. You need that moment where you're like out and connecting with yourself, with your thoughts. You need time to think and to feel again. So turn off the TV, go for the walk. Put down the phone, do the meditation. Get away from the social thing 10 minutes earlier so you can sit in the car and just think before you go home. You need more space to be thinking and connecting with self. So build that in your life, self-connection. Second part, the most important part, we know environment dramatically shapes your confidence. The connection you have with the people around you. This means be around positive people, contribute around positive people, learn from positive people. It means create great relationships in your life. I want you all to improve this one. Simple action, simple daily, weekly, real life action. You must start sharing your real thoughts, feelings, desires, and goals with the people around you. You got to do it more often. Here's where you lack confidence in life. When you won't share your truth because you're worried what everyone else thinks. That's what high schoolers do. You don't do that anymore. You're too damn old. Now you share your truth with other people and realize most of them won't get it, won't understand why it's important, won't support you, won't care, or at least won't get in your way and say anything at all. But the less you speak your truth to other people, the more superficial your connections are with them. Number 5 is capability. Competence is the knowing, the knowledge, skill, talent, ability. Capability is you can do it every time. It is like a strength, if you will. It is something that is, you are highly capable at that thing. You are at another level of skill that it shows up every single time. But here's the truth. Capability is as much as a mindset as a competence. Let me give you an example. A lot of extremely smart people who can handle the problem don't handle the problem because they don't feel capable. It's like, yeah, I know it, but I don't do it. See, there's a difference between knowledge and execution, which is often the difference between competence and capability. See, competence is like the foundation and a stored value, but it's expressed through execution, capability. You want to develop capability? It means you get in the mix, you do the work, you show up, you try. Capability means I know I will execute. That's what, to me, confident capabilities. I know I will execute. How do you do that? You have to be more consistent in your execution. You need to be way more consistent in your execution. We talked about decision earlier. Decision is great. Action is required. We've got to get you to execute more of those to-do lists. You want more success, you want more joy, you want more confidence, you got to execute more of the plans. Capability is self-trust to take the action. It's not just, do I know how to take the action? It's, I'm an action taker. I'm going to show up. I'm capable to handle this. I will do this. I trust in myself to handle this, to execute again and again and again and again and again. That's capability. And I really want you to develop that in your heart and in your soul by checking off the simplest of things each day. If you have a list of 3 to-do lists, if you wrote down your 3 top priorities for the day, do those first. Before you do your social media, before you reply to everyone's DMs, inbox, voice message, text. It's like, listen, I have so many people who They spend all day just checking their email to reply to everybody else. Now that's fine if that's your job. If that's customer service, do that. That's your job. But if you're an entrepreneur, as an example, or you have a whole list of other priorities and you're just checking into other people's agendas all day to meet all their obligations, and you keep missing your key priorities day after day after day after day, your brain doesn't feel like you're capable anymore. Even though you might be smart, you're competent, but your brain doesn't believe you're capable. Last big idea today, contribution. You want confidence? Give more. You want confidence? Make your difference. You want confidence? Do things that matter. Why? Because A, those things are celebrated in the world. Generous, giving people tend to have greater what? Connections with other people. Generous, giving, caring, hardworking people tend to have what? More clarity about who they are. They're more congruent. These things, they feel more capable. Like generosity, doing things that matter, giving strengthens the whole rest of the model. The whole model drives itself when you've got each of these pieces running, right? Each of these pieces touches one another. Contribution's a key. It really is. Sometimes when you feel so bad about yourself, you're not going to shake yourself out of that. But what can shake yourself out of that is service. Sometimes you got to get out of your own head. And to me, what has created a great confidence and reverence for life in my life has been, I've been volunteering most of my life. When you're a volunteer, when you show up for others, when you volunteer to help out, whether it's as simple as helping a friend move or going down to the local soup kitchen or volunteering for that nonprofit cause that you like, or running that fundraiser even though you don't know how, those contributions make a difference. Maybe your contribution is your art. Maybe your contribution is your time. Maybe your contribution is financial. Maybe your contribution is mentorship. Maybe your contribution is your content or your book or your work. Whatever that is, if you can do the same thing where you can give generously to it, give to your work, be generous to that contribution, be in the moment when you're serving someone who is in need, you get a little more spirit inside. And when that spirit of goodness is inside, you can share it more too.
Confidence is a skill that you can build using simple, repetitive tasks and thinking tools. And you can start building it today. I want you to just settle in for a second, ground yourself in this moment, and I want you to think about what is something that you want to make happen this year in your life. What is the one thing that if Mel Robbins could wave her sparkly lip gloss and I could give you the next level of confidence, okay? What is that thing that you really want to create in your life for real? And write it down. I see write a book. I see retire. I see have 10 to 15 coaching clients, be a speaker, sell my art. All of it is achievable. How do I know that? Because somebody else in the world is doing it. If someone else in the world is doing what you dream of doing, you have evidence that it is possible for you. And here's what I know about your dreams. Your dreams are deeply personal. And when you have dreams that are deeply personal, that are meant for you, that pull you like an arrow is pulled towards a target, you only have two choices. You either got to figure out how to level up your confidence and start working toward it, or those dreams will haunt you. Because I personally believe, I'm writing a book about this right now, that when you're born, your dreams are woven into your DNA. They're preset. There is a life that is meant for you. And your dreams are trying to pull you toward this. And what's super, super cool about getting in touch with your dreams when it relates to confidence is that Your dreams are just things that you can achieve if you work toward them. And so if you're not working toward your dreams, if you don't have your dreams already achieved, here's what I know. There's something about you that is blocked right now, and that's okay. Thinking about your dreams will haunt you. Getting out of the thinking habit and into the action habit, that is what will change your life. And so here's the next thing I want to do. I want you to now level up even more, because I bet the way that you wrote your dreams down, I bet you even shrunk it a little. I bet your self-doubt and your insecurity made you write a dream that was a little bit smaller than what you actually want, right? I know this because I do the same damn thing to myself. Of course I do. I think about, what my big dreams are, and I go, oh, well, what do I really want? I want my next book to be a massive success. I want it to dominate the bestseller list for at least 10 weeks. That's my big, big, big dream. But what I say is, oh, I'd love to, make the New York Times bestseller list. I shrink it because my self-doubt and my insecurity even starts to block me when I dream. You feel the pull of your dream, but then you say this to yourself: it will never happen for me. There's a relationship between confidence, which pushes you forward, and self-doubt, which blocks you. And this is why self-doubt is such a killer, because you know what you want. You can feel what you want. You are jealous of people that have it. You are pulled toward that thing that you want. And your doubt is blocking you by actively convincing you it won't happen for you. So let's talk a little bit about confidence, okay? First of all, I've already said it's a skill. It doesn't matter if you were born the most insecure, thumb-sucking, abused, pathetic soul of a human being. You can build the skill of confidence. It doesn't matter if you came out of the womb super ego-driven and larger than life and confident and all that stuff. You still have a lot of work to do when it comes to confidence, authentic confidence. So let me talk to you about what is the skill of confidence. My definition of confidence is not belief in self. I love evidence-based advice because I'm kind of skeptical. I looked at the research on confidence, okay? And there's really good news here. The first thing you've already learned, it's a skill. The second thing that you are going to learn that's really good is it's very simple to build the skill of confidence. And you can do it through repetitive actions every day, very simple little things that will slowly build up the reservoir of confidence. And here's the definition I want to give you of confidence. Confidence is the willingness to try. That's it. And the reason why I like this definition is because this definition is based in the research around confidence. So if you want to learn more about this, Google confidence-competency loop. This is my fancy little graphic, okay? This is what we call a confidence-competency loop. I did not invent this. This is something that people who research confidence for a living have created. And I've highlighted this because this is where confidence begins. It begins with the willingness to try, because I'm going to show you what ends up happening if you're the kind of person who trains yourself. Notice the words I'm using, trains. We're not going to sit around and wait for motivation. We're not going to wait for courage. We're going to manufacture those things. And this is where the 5-second rule is so transformative. All you do is in a moment where you feel doubt, insecurity, fear, anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, PTSD, OCD, anything that you might possibly have that would rise up to block you, you simply count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And you got to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what that will do is it will shift gears in your mind. Instead of being stuck here in the part of the brain that keeps you stuck worrying and thinking and having a bias towards overthinking and being a perfectionist, you're going to go 1, 4, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to try. The first time you try, you will fail. That's really good news. You want to know why? You learn by failing. Do you realize that's how you've always learned? That when you were a kid, you don't remember this, but when you were learning to walk, you fell an average of 17 times an hour. And so you learn everything when you fail. Because when you fail, as much as you may think you're going to die, if you stand on a stage, I see a lot of you who want to be coaches or speakers or whatever, you're going to have to learn how to give a speech where you stutter and where your mouth gets really dry and pasty and where you get a neck rash and where you forget what you're supposed to say. You got to do all that stuff. Why? Because when you fail, you don't die. You actually gain knowledge and experience. And that's the gift of failure, because you then take that knowledge and that experience and you go right back to the next time. And then you try again. But this time when you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, try, you're going to take your knowledge and experience with you and you're going to fail a little bit less. And what you're going to learn there, you're going to take right back to the next time that you try. You 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You push yourself to try. You gain a little bit of competency for the next time you're going to do it. And every time you gain a little bit of competency, your mastery goes up. And that's when you start to feel more self-assured. And that muscle, everybody, of trying, that is where you build the skill of confidence.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.